3 days later, the strike force assembled at the edge of known space. The TSS Indomitable was joined by 2 sister ships, the Defiant and the Resolute. Both were human carriers built with the same philosophy of reliable, simple technology. Around them gathered a fleet of Union volunteers. Admiral Quental's flagship was there, along with Commander Tilessa's cruiser and Envoy Krilthar's destroyer. Each alien vessel had been modified. Human engineers had installed backup mechanical systems, hardened electronics and manual controls throughout the ships. The alien crews had trained intensively on these new systems. At first they found it frustrating to use physical switches and mechanical valves, but gradually they began to appreciate the reliability. When they deliberately disabled their main computers during drills, the backup systems kept working perfectly. Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, reviewing the final preparations. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. Everyone knew this mission was dangerous. The Void Reach had destroyed previous expeditions, but everyone also believed they could succeed. "All ships report ready," Choi Minji announced. "Then let's begin," Lee Hyun said. "Signal the fleet. Entering the Void Reach. Maintain formation and stay alert." The combined fleet moved forward. At first, space seemed normal. Stars shone clearly. Sensors worked perfectly. Then they crossed an invisible boundary and everything changed. A wave of radiation washed over the ships. On the Union vessels, alarms blared as energy shields struggled to compensate. Systems flickered and sparked. But the human carriers pushed through without trouble. Their thick armor absorbed the radiation like it was nothing. "All Union ships switch to backup systems now," Lee Hyun ordered. "Your primary systems won't survive much longer in here." The alien crews followed the command. Throughout their ships, they shut down advanced computers and energy shields. They activated the simple mechanical systems that humans had installed. It felt strange and primitive, but it worked, Commander Tilessa reported from her cruiser. "Captain Lee, our backup systems are functioning perfectly. I can't believe how stable everything feels." "That's because you're not fighting the environment anymore," Lee Hyun replied. "You're just accepting it and moving forward." The fleet continued deeper into the Void Reach. Magnetic storms erupted around them, twisting and pulling at the ships. On normal vessels, these storms would have disrupted navigation computers and guidance systems. But the human ships used mechanical gyroscopes and physical star charts. The magnetic storms couldn't affect them. After 6 hours of travel, they encountered the most dangerous part of the journey. A gravimetric distortion field that twisted space itself. Ships trying to cross it would be pulled apart by conflicting gravity forces. Engineer Kang Doyen studied the readings. "Captain, the distortion is moving in a pattern. It's not random. If we time our crossing correctly, we can pass through a weak point." "How long do we have to wait?" Lee Hyun asked. 12 minutes. "Then we'll have a 3-minute window." Lee Hyun nodded and signaled the fleet. "All ships hold position. We cross together in 12 minutes. Mark your timers." The wait felt longer than it was. Every crew member watched their clocks counting down the seconds. When the moment came, the entire fleet moved as one. The Indomitable led the way, its massive bulk pushing through the distortion like an icebreaker through frozen water. Behind it, the other ships followed in its wake. The crossing was rough, but the careful timing worked. All ships emerged on the other side intact. "Sensors show a large asteroid field ahead," Choi Minji reported. "And I'm detecting power signatures. Lots of them." "We found them," Lee Hyun said quietly. "Battle stations. Prepare for combat." The Reaver base came into view. It was built into a field of asteroids, with each rock converted into a fortress. Ships nestled between the asteroids, protected by overlapping defense networks. In the center was a massive command station where Vexa Shinar himself commanded. "They knew we were coming," Admiral Quental said over the communication channel. "Look at how they're positioned. This is a trap." "Of course it's a trap," Lee Hyun agreed. "They probably thought we'd send a traditional fleet. They don't know we brought something different." As if to prove the point, the asteroid suddenly activated mines. Thousands of small devices floated out, each one designed to emit an EMP blast that would disable modern ships. The Union vessels flickered as the EMP waves hit them, but because they were running on mechanical backup systems, they didn't shut down. The mines had no effect. "Flight Commander Yoon," Lee Hyun ordered, "clear the minefield." Yoon Hajin and his squadrons launched immediately. The fighters spread out, using their autocannons to destroy mines before they could get close. The mechanical targeting systems worked perfectly, unaffected by the electronic warfare that filled the area. All carriers begin bombardment, Lee Hyun commanded. Target the outer defenses. Punch through their line. The 3 human carriers fired their railguns in a coordinated strike. Tungsten slugs crossed the distance in seconds, hitting asteroid fortresses with tremendous force. The Reavers had built their defenses expecting energy weapons. They weren't prepared for kinetic impacts. Rock and metal exploded. Entire asteroids cracked apart under the assault. The Reaver ships tried to respond, but they faced the same problem as before. Their weapons and tactics were designed for conventional battles. The human ships didn't fight conventionally. Choi Minji coordinated the missile strikes. Thousands of missiles saturated the battlefield, overwhelming the Reaver point defenses. Meanwhile, the human fighters darted between asteroids, attacking from unexpected angles. The Union ships, operating on human-designed backup systems, provided supporting fire. They weren't as effective as the human carriers, but they were learning fast. Their crews adapted to mechanical targeting and manual controls. Envoy Krilthar commanded his destroyer with surprising skill. He had studied human tactics carefully and now put that knowledge to use. His ship moved like a human vessel, aggressive and unpredictable. "I understand now," Krilthar said over the channel. "You don't try to be perfect. You try to be effective." "Exactly," Lee Hyun replied. "Now let's finish this." The battle reached its critical point. The outer defenses were broken. Now they needed to take the command station. "We need a boarding party," Admiral Quental said. "That station is too heavily armored for our weapons." Lee Hyun had already considered this. "The Indomitable will breach the station. We'll deploy Marines directly." It was a bold plan, almost reckless, but it was the kind of thing humans excelled at. The Indomitable accelerated toward the command station. Reaver weapons fired desperately, but the carrier's armor held. When they were close enough, Engineer Kang Doyen activated the breach charges. Explosions tore through the station's outer wall. Before the Reavers could respond, human Marines poured through the breach. They wore mechanically sealed combat suits and carried projectile weapons. In the confined spaces of the station, their training and equipment gave them every advantage. The fighting was fierce but quick. Human Marines moved through the station with practiced efficiency. The Reavers tried to use their stolen technology, but it meant nothing in close combat. Captain Lee Hyun led a team directly to the command center. They found Vexishanar there, surrounded by his guards. The Reaver leader snarled when he saw the humans. "You should not have won," Vexishanar said with hatred. "We had every advantage." Lee Hyun raised his pistol calmly. "You had every advantage against everyone else. You forgot that not everyone fights the same way." The weapon fired. Vexishanar fell. His guards surrendered immediately. With their leader dead and their base destroyed, the remaining Reavers gave up. The threat was ended. The return journey through the Void Reach was easier. The crews knew what to expect now. They worked together smoothly, human and alien cooperating perfectly. When they emerged back into normal space, Ambassador Park Ji-woo was waiting with news from the Galactic Council. Earth had been awarded full status in the Union. More importantly, the Council wanted to establish joint training programs with human forces. Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge, looking at the stars. His crew had proven themselves. Humanity had shown the galaxy that old methods still had value. Dr. Shin Yoonji joined him. "We did it. We earned their respect." "We did more than that," Lee Hyun replied. "We reminded them that there's no single right way to do things. Innovation isn't just about moving forward. Sometimes it's about remembering what worked before." Flight Commander Yoon brought his fighters home. Engineer Kang completed his system checks. Lieutenant Commander Choi filed her final report. The TSS Indomitable turned toward Earth. The primitive carrier had taught the galaxy an important lesson. Simple works. Reliable wins. And humanity would never apologize for being different. The battle was over, but the work had just begun. Damaged Union ships limped back to their positions. Medical teams transported wounded crew members to hospital vessels. Engineers assessed the destruction and began making repairs. The TSS Indomitable had minor damage. A few scorch marks on the armor. 3 fighters that didn't return, but compared to the Union fleet, which had lost 40% of its ships, the human carrier was nearly untouched. Admiral Quental sent a personal message to Captain Lee Hyun. "Captain, I request permission to come aboard your vessel." I wish to understand how you achieved what we could not. Li Hyun accepted immediately. You are welcome, Admiral. Come whenever you're ready. 6 hours later, a small transport delivered Admiral Quintal and his senior staff to the Indomitable. Among them was Commander Talessa, a Lysarian officer with pale blue skin and large, curious eyes. She was an expert in alien technology and had been studying human methods since the battle ended. The group arrived in the hangar bay. The first thing they noticed was how different everything looked. Union ships had smooth walls, holographic controls, and clean energy systems. The Indomitable had exposed pipes, physical switches, and equipment that looked heavy and mechanical. Engineer Kang Doyun met them at the entrance. He was young but confident, with oil stains on his uniform from working on repairs. Welcome aboard, Kang said with a respectful bow. Captain Lee has asked me to give you a tour. Please follow me. As they walked through the carrier, the alien officers tried to understand what they were seeing. Everything seemed backward. There were manual valves that required physical strength to turn. There were backup systems for the backup systems. There were even paper charts stored in protected cases. Why do you have so many redundancies? Commander Talessa asked. Our ships use integrated systems that are much more efficient. Kang smiled. Efficiency is good until something breaks. Then you want redundancy. If our main computer fails, we have backups. If the backups fail, we have manual controls. If everything electronic fails, we can still operate the ship using mechanical systems. But that seems so complicated, another alien officer said. It's simple, actually, Kang replied. Every crew member knows how to operate the manual systems. We train for it constantly. So when something goes wrong, we don't panic. We just switch to the backup. They reach the weapons bay. Massive railguns line the walls, each one carefully maintained by human crews. The aliens stared at the simple but powerful weapons. These are just magnetic accelerators, Quintal said, examining one closely. Very basic physics, exactly, Kang agreed. But basic physics doesn't stop working. Energy weapons are powerful, but they need a lot of power. They generate heat. They can be deflected or absorbed. A solid piece of metal traveling fast enough doesn't care about any of that. It just hits. Commander Talessa was starting to understand. You didn't refuse to develop advanced technology. You chose to keep the old technology because it's reliable. Now you're getting it, Kang said with approval. They continued the tour, visiting the fighter bays, the medical centers, and the crew quarters. Everywhere they went, the aliens saw the same philosophy. Human technology wasn't about being the most advanced. It was about being dependable. In the conference room, they met with Captain Li Hyun and his senior staff. Dr. Shin Yoonji, a military historian, was also present. She was an older woman with sharp intelligence and a warm smile. Admiral, Li Hyun began, you wanted to understand our methods. Dr. Shin can explain the philosophy behind our approach. Dr. Shin stood and activated a simple display. It showed Earth's history from ancient times to the present. Humanity developed on a difficult world, she explained. We had no natural defenses. No thick skin, no claws, no venom. We survived by being clever and adaptable. We used whatever tools worked. When stone tools worked, we used stone. When metal worked better, we switched to metal. We never threw away something just because it was old. We kept it if it was useful. She changed the display to show early spacecraft. When we went to space, we brought that same attitude. Our first ships were simple because we didn't know how to make complicated ones. But those simple ships worked. They got us to the moon. They built our space stations. So when we developed more advanced technology, we didn't abandon the old methods. We kept both. Commander Talessa leaned forward. But the rest of the galaxy developed in the same direction. We all use energy shields, plasma weapons, quantum computers. You're the only ones who still use kinetic weapons and mechanical systems. Why, Dr. Shin smiled. Because everyone else became predictable. When every civilization follows the same path, it's easy to develop counters. The Reavers proved that. They stole your technology and learned how to beat it. But they never encountered our technology because no one else uses it. It's not just about being different, Captain Li Hyun added. It's about understanding that every technology has strengths and weaknesses. Energy shields are great against energy weapons, but they barely slow down physical projectiles. Quantum computers are incredibly fast, but they can be hacked or disrupted. We use both old and new technology together. That makes us unpredictable. Admiral Quintal sat back in his chair, thinking deeply. You're saying that we became too comfortable with our advantages. We forgot that those advantages could become weaknesses. Yes, Lee Hyun confirmed. Before anyone could say more, Ambassador Park Ji-woo's face appeared on the communication screen. She looked worried. Captain Lee Hyun, Admiral Quental, we have urgent news from Galactic Intelligence. They've located the Crimson Reaver's main base. Everyone in the room focused on the screen immediately. Where? Quental demanded. In the Void Reach, Park replied. A region of space that's almost impossible to navigate. Radiation storms, magnetic anomalies, and gravimetric distortions make it a death trap for normal vessels. Lee Hyun exchanged glances with his officers. That explains how they've stayed hidden. The Galactic Council is requesting Earth's assistance again, Park continued. They want you to lead a strike force to destroy the Reaver base. But Captain, the Void Reach is extremely dangerous. Your ship would need to withstand conditions that would destroy most Union vessels. Kang Doyen spoke up. Captain, the Indomitable was designed for harsh environments, Earth's oceans, radiation belts, magnetic fields. We tested this ship in conditions similar to what they're describing. Choi Min-ji nodded. Our systems don't rely on delicate quantum equipment. Radiation won't affect our mechanical controls. Magnetic storms won't disrupt our hardened electronics. Lee Hyun looked at Admiral Quental. What do you think, Admiral? Should we accept? Quental stood up. Captain, after what I've seen today, I believe your ship is the only one that can survive in the Void Reach. But you shouldn't go alone. I volunteer my ship and crew to accompany you. We'll need to retrofit our systems with some of your backup technology, but we can learn. Commander Telesa stood as well. My ship will also join, if you're willing to teach us your methods. Other officers around the table voiced their agreement. The aliens were no longer laughing at human technology. They were asking to learn from it. Captain Lee Hyun smiled. Then we have a mission. Ambassador Park, please inform the Council that Earth accepts. We'll lead a combined strike force into the Void Reach and end the Reaver threat permanently. I'll send the message immediately, Park said. Then her expression softened. Captain, be careful. The galaxy is watching. You've already proven that humanity deserves respect. Now prove that we can lead. We will, Lee Hyun promised. The screen went dark. Envoy Krilthar, the Veltraxian who had mocked humanity during the first council meeting, requested a private audience with Captain Lee Hyun. He arrived alone, without his usual attendants. Captain, Krilthar began, his voice humble, I wish to apologize. I laughed at your ship. I called your technology primitive. I was wrong, Lee Hyun gestured for him to sit. You weren't entirely wrong. Our technology is primitive compared to yours in some ways. But that's not weakness, Krilthar said. That's wisdom. You kept what works. We threw away everything old in pursuit of progress. We thought newer always meant better. The Reavers proved us wrong. You proved us right. What changed your mind? Lee Hyun asked. Watching you fight, Krilthar replied. You weren't lucky. You were prepared. Every move was calculated. Every system had a purpose. You succeeded because you understood your strengths and our weaknesses. That's not primitive. That's brilliant. Lee Hyun nodded slowly. Thank you, Envoy. Your apology means more than you know. May I ask a favor? Krilthar said. May I observe your methods during the mission? I want to bring what I learned back to my people. You're welcome to join us, Lee Hyun replied. That's why we're here. Not to prove we're better than anyone else, but to show that different approaches have value. As Krilthar left, Dr. Shin approached Captain Lee Hyun. That went well, she observed. It's a start, Lee Hyun agreed. Now we just have to survive the Void Reach and destroy a heavily fortified enemy base. Simple. They both laughed, knowing nothing about this mission would be simple. The launch sequence began with a deep vibration that ran through the entire ship. In the hangar bays, magnetic rails hummed with power. The fighters were lined up in perfect rows, their pilots already strapped in and ready. Flight Commander Yoon Ha-jin sat in the cockpit of his fighter. His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. Everything was mechanical, everything was simple. There were no complex computer systems to fail or be hacked. Just metal, fuel, and the skill of the pilot. All fighters, this is Yoon. Launch sequence in 10 seconds. Stay in formation. Follow your wingmen. And remember, we fly where their fancy computers can't. The countdown reached 0. The magnetic rails activated with a sound like thunder. One by one, the fighters shot out of the Indomitable like bullets from a gun. In 30 seconds, all 48 fighters were in space, moving at speeds that shocked the alien observers. On an alien cruiser, a sensor officer watched the human launch. How did they deploy so fast? Our fighters take 3 minutes to launch, his commander had no answer. The humans had done something their advanced technology couldn't match. Yoon Ha-jin led his squadron toward the enemy. The Reavers noticed them coming and tried their standard tactics. They sent electronic attacks meant to disable the fighters' systems. They used targeted jamming to blind their sensors. They deployed disruption fields to stop their engines. Nothing worked. The human fighters flew straight through every countermeasure. Their mechanical controls didn't care about electronic warfare. Their manual guidance systems couldn't be jammed. Their chemical engines ran on fuel and fire, not on computers that could be hacked. All wings begin attack run, Yoon commanded. Pattern Delta. Hit them hard. The fighters split into groups and dove toward the Reaver ships. Unlike the graceful alien vessels that circled and danced, trying to wear down shields with sustained energy fire, the human fighters attacked like ancient warriors. They came in fast, fired everything they had, and got out before the enemy could respond. Autocannons rattled, spitting solid bullets at incredible speeds. The Reaver's shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, struggled against physical projectiles. Missiles streaked through space, each one guided by simple mechanical gyroscopes that no computer virus could infect. A Reaver destroyer tried to turn its weapons on the attacking fighters, but the humans were too fast and too unpredictable. They didn't fly in the neat formations that alien pilots preferred. They swarmed like angry bees, impossible to track. Back on the Indomitable, Captain Lee Hyun watched the battle data. "Main guns, you have firing solutions?" "Yes, sir." "Targets locked." "Fire." The carrier's railgun spoke. Unlike energy weapons that lit up space with colorful beams, the railguns were almost invisible. They used magnetic force to throw solid tungsten slugs at a fraction of the speed of light. The projectiles were simple pieces of metal, but they carried enormous energy. The first slug hit a Reaver cruiser in the center mass. The ship's shields tried to deflect it, but shields were designed for energy, not for solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds. The tungsten slug punched through the shield like it wasn't there, then through the armor, then through the entire ship. The cruiser exploded. The aliens watching the battle fell silent. They had never seen anything like this. "Reload and fire at will," Lee Hyun ordered calmly. "Target their larger vessels. Show them what kinetic weapons can do." The Indomitable's main batteries fired again and again. Each shot was calculated by human gunners using old-fashioned ballistics mathematics. No quantum computers, no artificial intelligence. Just humans doing math and making decisions, and it was devastatingly effective. Lieutenant Commander Choi Minji coordinated the missile batteries. Launch sequence Alpha. I want saturation fire on grid 7-5. Thousands of missiles erupted from the Indomitable's hull. They flew in swarms so thick they looked like clouds. Each missile had a simple job: fly straight, find a target, and explode. They didn't need fancy guidance systems. They didn't need to communicate with each other. They just needed to reach their target and detonate. The Reaver's electronic countermeasures were useless. They could jam communication. They could hack computers. But they couldn't stop a missile that had no computer to hack and didn't need to communicate with anything. Explosions bloomed across the Reaver fleet. Ships that had been winning moments ago were now struggling to survive. Their stolen technology, which worked so well against Union forces, meant nothing against an enemy that didn't use that technology. Vexishanar, the Reaver leader, watched from his flagship in disbelief. "What are these humans? Why don't our weapons work against them?" His tactical officer checked the sensors. "Lord Vexishanar, they're using primitive technology. Mechanical systems. Chemical propulsion. Kinetic weapons. Our disruption fields don't affect them because there's nothing to disrupt." "Then shoot them with conventional weapons," Vexishanar roared. "We're trying, but their armor is too thick. Our energy weapons can't penetrate it quickly enough. And their fighters are too fast. We can't get a lock on them." On the Union ships, crews watched in amazement as the battle turned. The human carrier, which they had dismissed as primitive and useless, was destroying Reaver vessels one after another. Their fighters danced through enemy formations untouched. Their missiles struck targets that should have been protected. Their railguns hit with the force of asteroids. Admiral Quental opened a communication to the Indomitable. "Captain Lee Hyun, your tactics are effective. How are you doing this?" Lee Hyun's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm, as if this was just another day at work. "We're doing what humans do best, Admiral. We're adapting to the situation. Your enemy prepared for ships like yours. They didn't prepare for ships like ours. But your technology is thousands of years old," Quental said, confusion clear in his voice. "Old doesn't mean bad," Lee Hyun replied. "It means tested. It means reliable. Every system on my ship has been used by humans for centuries. We know it works because we've proven it works again and again." Another Reaver ship exploded on the view screen. "Besides," Lee Hyun continued, "the Reavers stole your technology. They learned how to counter it. But they've never seen our technology before. Every advantage they had against you becomes a disadvantage against us." Choi Minji interrupted. "Captain, the Reaver flagship is trying to retreat." Lee Hyun nodded. "Flight Commander Yoon, are you in position?" Yoon Hajin's voice came through clearly. "Yes, sir. We anticipated their withdrawal. We're already between them and the escape route. Then show them what a human fighter squadron can do." Yoon's fighters had positioned themselves perfectly. While the Reavers had been focused on the big carrier, the small fighters had moved into place. Now they blocked the only path out of the battle zone. The Reaver flagship tried to power through. It was a massive vessel, 3 times larger than any human fighter. But size meant nothing when 48 fighters attacked at once. Missiles converged from all directions. Autocannons stitched lines across the flagship's hull. The Reavers tried to defend themselves, but human pilots were trained for this kind of close combat. They moved like they were born in space, dodging return fire and pressing their attack. The flagship's engines flickered and died. Explosions rippled across its hull. "This is Captain Lee Hyun to the Reaver flagship. Your engines are destroyed. Your weapons are offline. Surrender now." There was no response for a long moment. Then Vexishanar's face appeared on screen. He looked defeated and angry. "You fight like barbarians," he said with hatred in his voice. Lee Hyun smiled slightly. "We fight like humans. There's a difference. Now will you surrender, or do we need to finish this?" Vexishanar hesitated, then nodded. "We surrender." Across the battlefield, the remaining Reaver ships stopped fighting. Some tried to flee into the nebula. Others surrendered. But the attack was broken. The battle was over. The Union fleet had taken heavy damage. Many ships were destroyed or crippled. But they had survived thanks to the primitive human carrier that everyone had laughed at. On the bridge of the Indomitable, the crew celebrated quietly. They had proven themselves. They had shown the galaxy that human methods worked. Captain Lee Hyun looked at his crew with pride. "Well done, everyone. But don't get comfortable. Something tells me this is just the beginning." He was right, the galaxy was watching now, and the galaxy was starting to understand that humanity was different in ways that mattered. The journey to the Kaleth system took 3 days. During that time, the crew of the TSS Indomitable maintained their usual routines. In the engineering decks, Kang Doyen walked through corridors lined with pipes and cables. Everything was labeled clearly. Everything had multiple access points for repairs. An alien observer had once visited during the ship's construction. The observer had been confused by all the manual systems. "Why do you have so many physical switches?" the alien had asked. "Why not use holographic controls?" Kang Doyen had smiled and replied, "Holographic controls stop working when the power fails. These switches will work as long as someone has a hand to flip them." Now, as he checked each system personally, Kang Doyen felt glad for those simple designs. He trusted machines, but he trusted his own eyes and hands more. On the flight deck, Yoon Ha-jin inspected his fighters. They were bulky compared to the sleek alien craft. Each fighter had a real cockpit with physical controls. The pilots didn't rely on neural interfaces or quantum computers. They flew with stick and throttle the way pilots had flown for centuries. "These birds aren't pretty," one of the younger pilots said. Yoon Ha-jin patted the fighter's armored hull. "Pretty doesn't win fights. Tough wins fights. These machines will fly through radiation storms that would fry an alien fighter's computer. They'll take hits that would shred anything with energy shields. And when everything else stops working, these will still fly." The pilot nodded understanding. On the bridge, Choi Minji studied tactical data about the Crimson Reavers. She was looking for patterns that others might miss. The Reavers had attacked in similar ways during both battles. They used stolen Union technology against the Union forces. Their strategy relied on electronic warfare and shield disruption. Choi Minji smiled to herself. The Reavers were preparing for an enemy that fought like the rest of the galaxy. They had no idea what was coming. The Indomitable emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kaleth system. Ahead of them, the Union fleet waited. It was an impressive sight. Hundreds of ships hung in space, their hulls smooth and gleaming. Energy shields shimmered around them like soap bubbles. Their weapons glowed with contained plasma. The Indomitable looked like an ugly cousin at a family gathering. Its gray armor was scarred from testing. Its shape was purely functional, with no thought given to beauty. Next to the artistic alien vessels, it seemed crude and rough. Captain Lee Hyun received a communication from Fleet Admiral Quental. Human vessel, welcome to the fleet. Please take position in grid section 77 Alpha. That's the rear guard position. The main battle line will be ahead of you. Understood, Admiral, Lee Hyun replied, the Indomitable moving to assigned position. As the massive carrier moved into place, alien crews on nearby ships stopped to watch. Some pointed and laughed. Others shook their heads in disbelief. A few felt sorry for the humans, thinking they would be destroyed in the first real battle. Lieutenant Commander Choi Minji noticed the reactions. They're making jokes about us on their communication channels. Let them, Lee Hyun said. Pride comes before a fall. Theirs, not ours. Several hours later, all the senior officers gathered for a tactical briefing. It was held via holographic communication, with representatives from each major ship appearing as translucent figures. Admiral Quental stood at the center of the projection. The Crimson Reavers have a base somewhere in this sector. Our scouts have detected unusual activity near the third planet. We believe they will attack within the next 24 hours. A star map appeared showing the system and the fleet's planned positions. Our strategy is straightforward, Quental continued. We will form a concave battle line. When the Reavers attack, we will envelop them with superior firepower. Our shields will absorb their initial assault. Then we will destroy them with coordinated plasma strikes. Captain Lee Hyun listened carefully. The plan was solid for a conventional battle between conventional forces. But the Reavers weren't conventional. They had already beaten this exact strategy twice before. Captain Lee Hyun, Quental said, noticing the human officer, your ship will remain in the rear guard. If any enemy vessels break through our lines, you may engage them. Otherwise, please observe and learn how modern space warfare is conducted. The other alien officers chuckled at this comment. Lee Hyun kept his expression neutral. Understood, Admiral. After the briefing ended, Choi Minji approached the captain. Sir, I've completed my analysis. The Reavers' tactics show clear patterns. They target shield generators first, then communication arrays. Once a ship is isolated and unprotected, they destroy it quickly. And our ship doesn't have either of those vulnerabilities, Lee Hyun noted. Exactly. We have armor instead of shields. We use hardened laser communication instead of quantum networks. Their preferred tactics won't work against us. Lee Hyun nodded slowly. Prepare an alternative battle plan, but don't share it with the Union forces. They won't listen, and I don't want to waste time arguing. Yes, sir. The fleet waited. Hours passed. Crews stayed at their stations ready for action. Then, without warning, the Reavers attacked. They came from inside a nearby nebula, a cloud of gas and dust that had hidden their approach. Dozens of ships appeared on sensors all at once. They were painted blood red, and their weapons were already firing. The Union fleet scrambled to respond. Ships that were supposed to form a careful battle line instead found themselves fighting for survival. The Reavers had studied their enemy well. They knew exactly where to hit. Energy beams lanced through space. The first Union ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Then a second. Then a third. Shield generators are failing across the fleet, Choi Minji reported. The Reavers have some kind of disruption technology. It's overloading the energy shields. Communications are being jammed, another officer added. The Union ships can't coordinate with each other. On the view screen, the battle was chaos. Beautiful alien vessels tried to fight back, but their shields flickered and died. Their weapons, designed to work in coordinated strikes, fired randomly as communications failed. The Reavers moved through the confusion like sharks through wounded fish. A transmission came through from the Reaver flagship. It was their leader, a creature called Vexa Shanar. His face was alien and frightening with too many eyes and teeth. Galactic Union, he said, his voice full of mockery. You send the same fleets with the same technology. You never learn? Your shields are useless. Your computers are mine to control. You cannot win. The transmission ended with the sound of reaver laughter. Captain Lee Hyun watched the disaster unfold. The Union fleet was losing badly. Ships were exploding or trying to retreat. The careful battle plan had collapsed in minutes. Sir, Choi Minji said quietly, we should engage. Lee Hyun studied the tactical display for a long moment. Then he nodded. Signal all stations. Battle stations. Full combat alert. Throughout the Indomitable, alarms sounded. Crew members rushed to their positions. In the hangar bays, pilots climbed into their fighters. In the weapons batteries, crews loaded massive shells into railguns. Flight Commander Yoon, prepare to launch all fighters. Yes, sir. Weapons, begin calculating firing solutions. Ballistic trajectories. Account for enemy movement. Firing solutions ready, Captain. Engineering, all power to engines and weapons. We won't need it for shields, understood, sir? Diverting power now. Lee Hyun looked at his crew. These were human beings, not perfect aliens with perfect technology. But they were ready. They were angry at being dismissed. They were eager to show what they could do. The galaxy thinks we're primitive, Lee Hyun said. Let's show them what primitive really means. Launch fighters. Begin the attack. The TSS Indomitable came to life. The council chamber floated high above Veridium Prime, a planet where thousands of alien species gathered to discuss important matters. Inside the massive hall, representatives from across the galaxy sat in their designated seats. The air hummed with translation devices that turned hundreds of languages into something everyone could understand. Ambassador Park Ji-woo stood at the center platform. She was a human woman with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor. Around her, alien beings whispered and pointed. Humans were still new to the Galactic Union. Only 15 years had passed since Earth joined, which was barely a moment in the timeline of the galaxy. Park Ji-woo cleared her throat. The chamber fell silent. The Galactic Union faces a serious threat, she began. The Crimson Reavers have attacked 12 colonies in the past month. Your combined fleets have failed to stop them twice. Many lives have been lost. A reptilian creature named Krilthar, who represented the Veltraxian people, made a hissing sound that the translator turned into laughter. We are aware of our situation, human. Do you have something useful to offer? Or are you here to state the obvious? Park Ji-woo did not react to the insult. Earth wishes to help. We will send our newest supercarrier, the TSS Indomitable, to join the fight against the Reavers. The chamber erupted in noise. Some aliens laughed openly. Others whispered among themselves. A tall blue-skinned being named Quental, who commanded the Union fleet, raised a hand for silence. Ambassador Park, we appreciate your enthusiasm, Quental said, his voice dripping with false politeness. However, we have reviewed the specifications of your vessel. It uses chemical propulsion for its small fighters. It has metal armor instead of energy shields. Its weapons are simple railguns and missiles. These are technologies that our civilizations abandoned thousands of years ago. Primitive, Krilthar added with another hiss. Absolutely primitive. It would be like bringing a stone axe to a plasma fight. More laughter filled the chamber. Park Ji-woo stood still, her face showing no emotion. She had expected this reaction. Nevertheless, she said clearly, Earth offers its assistance. The TSS Indomitable and her crew are ready to serve. Quental exchanged glances with other council members. They huddled together, speaking in low voices. Finally, the fleet admiral turned back to face the human ambassador. Very well. We are desperate, and we cannot refuse any help, no matter how no-quaint. Your carrier may join the fleet. However, it will be assigned to a support position. Stay in the rear. Observe our tactics. Try not to get in the way. Park Ji-woo bowed her head slightly. Thank you, Admiral. Earth will not disappoint you. As she left the platform, she could still hear the aliens laughing and making jokes about the primitive human ship. Far above the planet, in the orbit of Earth's moon, the TSS Indomitable waited. The ship was enormous, stretching over 2 kilometers in length. Its hull was covered in thick plates of tungsten carbide armor. Unlike the sleek, smooth vessels of the Galactic Union, the Indomitable looked blocky and industrial. Hundreds of weapons bristled from its surface. Launch bays lined its sides like the cells of a beehive. On the bridge, Captain Lee Hyun received the message from Ambassador Park. He was a man in his late 40s with gray at his temples and a strong jaw. He read the orders silently, then looked up at his crew. They've given us permission to join the fight, he announced. They've also told us to stay in the back and not interfere. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Choi Minji, frowned. They're putting us in a support role? After what we can do? They don't believe in what we can do, Lee Hyun replied. They look at our ship and see old technology. They don't understand that different doesn't mean worse. Should we show them what we're capable of? Asked Engineer Kang Doyen from his station. He was a young man with quick hands and a brilliant mind for keeping the ship running. Not yet, Lee Hyun said. Let them underestimate us. It's always better when your enemy doesn't take you seriously. The Reavers aren't our enemy, Choi Minji pointed out. The Union forces are supposed to be our allies. Lee Hyun smiled slightly. I said enemy. I didn't specify which one. The crew chuckled. They had all felt the sting of being dismissed by the more advanced alien civilizations. Earth's military technology looked primitive compared to energy shields and plasma cannons. But every human aboard the Indomitable knew the truth. Their ship was built to last, built to take punishment, and built to fight in ways that the aliens had forgotten. Prepare the ship for departure, Lee Hyun ordered. Set course for the Kaleth system. That's where the Union fleet is gathering. Course laid in, Captain, replied the navigation officer, and send a message to all crew members. I want everyone assembled in their sections in 1 hour. I have something to say to them. 1 hour later, Captain Lee Hyun's face appeared on screens throughout the massive carrier. Over 5,000 crew members stopped their work to listen. You've all heard the rumors by now, Lee Hyun began. The Galactic Union thinks our ship is primitive. They think our weapons are outdated. They think we're not good enough to fight alongside their modern fleet. He paused, letting his words sink in. They're wrong. Our ship was designed by people who understood that complexity creates weakness. Every system on this vessel has a backup. Every backup has a manual override. We don't rely on computers that can be hacked or energy shields that can be disrupted. We rely on steel, gunpowder, and the skill of this crew. On the hangar deck, Flight Commander Yoon Ha-jin stood with his pilots. They listened to their captain's words with growing pride. The aliens laugh at us because they've forgotten what it means to innovate under pressure, Lee Hyun continued. They've all followed the same path of technological development. They've all built the same kinds of ships with the same kinds of weapons and the same kinds of defenses. That makes them predictable. That makes them vulnerable. In the engineering sections, Kang Doyen and his teams nodded in agreement. We're going to show them something they've never seen before, Lee Hyun said. We're going to show them that human engineering isn't primitive. It's practical. It's reliable. And when everything else fails, it's still working. The captain's expression became serious. The Crimson Reavers are dangerous. They've defeated Union fleets twice. They have stolen technology that makes them a real threat. But they've never faced humans before. They've never faced a ship that doesn't play by the galaxy's rules. Lee Hyun looked directly into the camera. So here's what I want from each of you. Do your jobs. Trust your training. Trust your equipment. And when the time comes, show the galaxy what humans can do when everyone tells us something is impossible. The screen went dark. Throughout the ship, crew members returned to their duties with renewed determination. The TSS Indomitable fired its engines and began its journey to the Kaleth system. Behind them, Earth grew smaller. Ahead of them, war waited, and somewhere in the darkness of space, the Crimson Reavers prepared their next attack. Not knowing that they were about to face something completely unexpected, the galaxy was about to learn an important lesson about humanity. Never mistake simple for weak.